Good afternoon. I want to welcome Tay. I was telling, we were just briefly talking, and I was telling him that I usually have, cutman, boxing, boxers, things that have to do with the boxing business. But you know what? His story, and I'm going to introduce Anselmo Torres. He is the owner of Chemos Chorizo, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So I was telling Chemo that his story, I found his story interesting. Just I see the hustle, I see the entrepreneur spirit in him. And I was talking to Jose Soto, Mega Soto. I go, hey, who's this dude? I seen him on your t-shirts. Is he a sponsor? He goes, no, no, no. We grew up, we're good friends. I go, hey, man, well, let him know I want to have him on the podcast. So, anyways, Chemo, I just want to say thank you for the time. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So, tell me a little bit, a little bit about yourself. Where did you grow up? And even to the point of when did you meet Jose?
Jose. So I grew up in Inglewood.
Mhm.
I grew up in Inglewood. The park where I grew up in, it's mostly all raza from Zacatecas, and they all do landscaping and gardening.
Yeah.
My pops being one of them. So just like most people that grow up in a family business, I grew up in the business, and that's what I did. Around 23 years old, having the luxury of pretty much being your own boss at that time. You it's really easy to spend your money on drinking and going out, and all that good stuff comes with having a few bucks in your pocket and being young. And at that age, I was like, you know what, I uh, I don't want this for myself. Let me be more productive with my time, and I've always wanted to do boxing. So I signed up for a boxing gym, and there was this kid there. He was kind of unknown at the time, and now he's like my best friend. His name is Jose Mega Soto, and that's how we met. I was
Wow.
24, and he was probably like 18 years old.
So you guys, that he was already attending the gym and same
Yes,
neighborhood, same, So wow, wow.
yeah, we hit it off, and yeah, we were just great friends ever since.
Nice, nice. And how did you get into? You said that in your community there's a lot of landscaping, a lot of that. How did you get into the food industry? How did that come about?
How did that come about? Well, I was around around 7 years ago. I decided I wanted to move. My wife is originally from Ventura County,
Okay.
so I have a small family, and I decided that it would be a good move to take my family and raise them somewhere else. And I have my suegros here, my
Mhm.
mother-in-law, my father-in-law, and everything. I was like, it's a nice community. Maybe it's a good time to move. And I've been an entrepreneur my whole life, been a business owner, and it's not easy. People think it's easy. And one thing I tell everyone, I don't know if you can see the palm of my hand. I'll show people. I'll put it out. I'm like, right here, I'll get 20,000 bucks. It just rotates. It just rotates.
Yes.
And by the time it does full circle, it comes back at zero. Yeah.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, man, I said, I've never had a 9 to 5, and that might be nice, like no headaches, punch in, punch out, come home. So I thought about that. So when I moved here, I got a job, and I quickly found out that that's not where I wanted. That's not where I wanted to be.
Yeah.
Um, and I've always loved the food industry, and I thought to myself, I said, well, I would spend half of my life doing landscaping. Why don't I do something that's representative of where I'm from, so I could take pride in? Because there's a bunch of things you could do,
Oh yeah.
to make a profitable business, ride a trend at the moment. But I was like, I want something that I feel that I could turn into something and grow.
You wanted to build a brand that represented you and your family. That's what it sounds like.
So there's our town where we're from in Mexico is really popular for the chorizo that's made there, but there's
Okay.
only a few of the chorizo makers.
Oh,
So around the LA area and more in the Central Valley, there's a few people that make it, and everyone comes from near and far to buy it. So I thought to myself, I said, well, why don't I put real value behind it? I said, these guys, they have the craft, they have the recipe, but they think of it as in, well, I'm retired, I'm pensioned,
oh,
I'll just do it. And they
a
get,
hobby.
yeah, they're like,
Yeah.
I'm not doing much else with my time. But what if they put real value
Hmm.
to the product? And why is it it's only word of mouth? I'm sure that other people from other walks of life will enjoy it as well. And that's when I thought, let me try to take this product elsewhere.
So before you got into this, into Chemos Chorizo, what was your? Did you try any other small businesses? Were there anything that you tried and you're like, ah, strike one, or yeah, this one didn't work? I mean, was there anything else?
Let me see. I did. I There's always those times when you're with your cousins or your best
Mm.
friends, and it's like 1 in the morning, and they're like, "Let's start the business." And
Yeah.
at the moment, it sounds like a great idea. Uh, one time, one friend was like, "Oh, cannabis is legal. Let's all do it." And that didn't last much. Everyone just spent all their money, went nowhere. Um, One time, a guy tried. He wanted me to buy into his business, and he did pediatric shoes. So even something that random, but this guy made a lot of money, and I was like, "See, I don't necessarily have to be passionate about what it is. It just,
Yeah.
if it makes sense, it makes sense." But the guy was more, he was
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
sketchy, so I pulled away. Um, I had a lot of great ideas, I would like to say, but I didn't really take it anywhere. I would say those are the two that I actually probably got the closest to, and didn't go anywhere with them.
So when does Chemos Chorizo start? What year?
Let me see, 2000 November 2018. So my my cousin was here. He came from Mexico, and his
Mhm.
parents, they own a meat market, and then they make that particular style. And I told him, I was like, "Hey, can I talk to my tia?" I was like, "I would like to know the recipe, because it's only handed down
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
by by generation."
Yeah.
I said, I plan to sell it. I plan to make it into a business. And my aunt was nice enough to have him teach me, give me the ingredients and all that good stuff, with the condition that I don't teach anybody else.
Yeah.
She says it's a secret recipe, and don't teach nobody else.
Exactly.
And that was the condition.
That was the start. And I mean, just from hearing you talk about it, you tried other businesses, but this is the one that, like you mentioned in the beginning, it wasn't just about making money. It was something you had a passion for. And
It's
and yeah, go
absolutely.
ahead. Go ahead. Yeah. So is that a key component, would you say, if you want to be successful in business, is that you got to have a piece of you that's really, vested in it?
Yeah, I would say yes. I would say yes. And I have a game plan. And so where I'm at right now, I'm probably, if I was to say from 1 to 10, I'm probably
Mhm.
at step maybe 4. So people from the outside looking in might say, "Oh, you're doing good. You're fine where you're at."
Yeah.
And work a 9 to 5 and do this as a side hustle. But if I would have spent the last 6 years, 7 years doing this to be where I'm at, it would have been more convenient just to have a part-time job. It really would have. So I'm not doing it for what it is. I'm doing it for what it can be.
Yeah.
And
And and that's one of the questions I had. I'm like, okay, so where do you see yourself in a year? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? With the business. I mean, with entrepreneurship, I mean, the sky's the limit, right? I mean, you could be in Costco all over the, all over the world, for, if that's the road that, that this leads you to, correct? I mean,
Absolutely. And people they don't laugh, but I do catch them off guard when they know I make chorizo. They go, really? Because it's not really a common thing. Everyone eats it, everyone sees it on the shelf, but no one
right,
actually thinks who makes it.
exactly.
It catches them off guard. But I think if you actually put value to something and
Hmm.
have a and have a story behind it,
Oh yeah.
I always go back to when it comes to foods. I think about I think about someone that I look up to, which is the owner of Chobani Yogurt. The yogurt's been around forever.
Yeah.
Some guy came along. He brought his yogurt recipe. It wasn't as sweet. It was different. It was like 3 times the price, and he just changed the whole industry. Now, because of that brand of yogurt that he brought, now you find Icelandic, you find Australian, you find
Everything.
Norwegian, you
Yeah.
find all bunch of competitors, and
He opened the door though. He opened
he
that.
opened the door.
He opened that
And
door.
if someone would have said yogurt, go to the store. There's a bunch of yogurt. Why is yours better? But if you have a vision and you can stand behind your product and you believe in it, I think you're good.
Yeah, and I think that's what that reflects. I mean, just talking about, right now to you, you can see it, So somebody would be interested in, like, okay, we could talk about other brands, right? What is it? What's out there? Cacique, Reinaldo's, whatever it is. But I was talking to Stitch. I don't know if you know Stitch Duran. He's probably one of the most famous cutmen in boxing
Yes.
and MMA. So we were just talking. He goes, sometimes he's talking to boxers, trainers, and he goes, do you know who makes Everlast tape? Do you know who makes Idol? He goes, do you know who makes Stitch? Who's behind Stitch tape? And then everybody's like, well, yeah, you. He goes, that's the difference between my tape and other people's tape is that I built it. I went in there, I said, I want this, I want that, and I put my name on it. That's the difference between me and other companies. And I can see that in your, like, what's the difference? Well, this is you have the story, you have, this is a tradition from that's passed down family generation to generation, and you're bringing it to, to the public now.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
that's
and
yeah.
and something that I take pride in, which is very important.
Where are you based at? Still in Ventura or LA or?
Ventura County, the the majority of my business is LA County.
Okay.
It just happens to be that way. It's not
Yeah, yeah.
by a preference, but the majority of my business is for now it's LA County, but I'm based out of Ventura County.
Okay. What are some of the, I know you talked about the, what's good about it. And I like that, what you just said about you can have $20,000 right now and it looks like a lot of money. And by the end of the week, it's like, dude, where's my money at? Like, it's
Yeah,
gone. Um, are those some of the challenges sometimes with with being in being a business owner is you can have a really good week, you can have a couple months, you can have a pandemic, I mean,
yeah. There's that. There's that. Right now, prices are going up on everything, um, because of the for right now the tariffs. Things
yeah.
I've seen a bunch of things that have gone up. I have zero control over any of that. Zero control. The pandemic, that thing, there was there was zero control over that as well. So all we could do as business owners is adapt, and you have to have some money put away. You have to be really realistic with your plans. It's not like when someone gets paid every other week, they say this is a $2,000
Oh,
check. We're gonna go and buy this.
yeah,
Because also sometimes you might not get that check.
you're right. Yeah.
You'll get it, but it might be in 3 weeks. It might be in a month.
Mhm.
So it's not that easy. And one thing about being an entrepreneur, I tell people, I told them when you talk about it out loud, the concept of it, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I know you have your own business as well. I say we sacrifice our time and money in the present time in the hopes that in the future we'll have time and money. But when you say it out loud, you're like, that sounds kind of crazy.
Oh, it is crazy. I think for me, I've learned to set some limits because I would be that guy that if I got an order at 10 p.m., I'm packaging, getting it ready, and going to sleep at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, man, you can't live life like that. You're not gonna live, very long or a healthy life if you keep doing that. So I've learned to set some limits, but it's still in the back of my head, like, man, my customers are depending on this. Like if somebody puts a big order for you and they're expecting it, or by Friday, it's on your mind. It's not like, you know what, hey, sorry I couldn't do it. This came up, I got sick, or the shop closed for a day because of the city was doing something. So it's a lot of pressure. And I think if you're really serious about your business, you try everything you can to to be there for the customer and provide them with a good service. So
And as a business owner, you know as well that if things don't work out for whatever reason, things that you mentioned are under your control. It's not like when you work a 9 to 5 where you
oh,
punch out and you don't think about that. You take those problems
oh,
and you take them to bed. Your mind's still thinking about,
doesn't stop.
how can I cater to my customer? How could I make it happen? How could I, make a deadline? How all these, what ifs. It's I still wouldn't change a thing. I love being an entrepreneur, but it's challenging.
Do you see somebody, I don't know what ages your kids are or other family, do you see anybody else carrying on the brand? Because I'm sure you're building it also for somebody in the future in the family to continue with this brand. Do you
I
see
plan
anybody?
to pass it on to my kids.
Okay.
All my family, they're all entrepreneurs. Pretty much everyone I grew up with, they're all entrepreneurs.
Mm.
So that's just kind of embedded in me. So automatically default was just like, well, I'll just pass it on to my kids. Who knows?
Yeah.
Probably when they're of age, they're like, oh God, no, I don't want to participate in this at all. And
Yeah.
and that's fine as well. But where my mind's at, I think of building something that they could have.
Yeah. At least it's there. And I think sometimes we don't they're not gonna tell us like, like, hey dad, I'm really proud of this, the brand that you built. But someday I think that they will, they'll see all the hard work and sacrifice that you did for them and for the family to have a better life and stuff. So yeah, I'm sure it's coming.
Yeah, we always hope for that.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, but it sometimes like I try to teach my son. He's already he's already a man, 31 years old, and I'm like, what? I'm not gonna be around forever. Like learn these things so that it's a business. You can make, like we can make some money off of it. It's also good to be involved in the sport, things like that. But sometimes our passion isn't somebody else's passion.
Right,
That's the hard part. You know,
right.
that's the hard part where you're like, okay, well, I can't make this person like selling, chorizo or selling Cutman supplies or doing that. That's not their thing, maybe. So, but you still try to educate them and let them know, okay, maybe you don't work in it, but you're involved in it somehow.
And I've thought about that. I'm like, if they don't want to participate in it, if they truly don't, I
Mm.
can be like, son or daughters,
Yeah,
this is yours. And they're like, no, I want to be a writer. That's how
right.
that's out of my control. But at
Exactly.
least I could sell it and they could have
Yeah,
something.
exactly.
So
Like they say, a patrimonio, something for them to to have and stuff. But that's
right,
good.
right.
That's
Opposed to
no,
them
that
burning it down to the ground, they could
they could
they could
do
have
that.
sell it.
Yeah, that's funny. I mean, but we have no, they're their own people, so but that's
Right.
good, man. That's a good thing. So I see like in your post, there's different types of flavors too. What's like your best seller? What are
So
some of the
our
best sellers that you
traditional
have?
one,
Okay.
it's it's just spicy. The original recipe that I
Okay.
started off was just spicy. But then I started to get a lot of people asking, "Hey, I feed it to my kids and it's too spicy for
Oh,
them," or "Spice gives me heartburn," or so
yeah.
on. So then I started to do spicy and then mild. But before it was
Okay.
just chemos chorizo. It was just
Yeah,
that,
yeah, yeah. That was it. It's gonna be hot and yeah.
and that's just it. So then I started spicy mild, and then they started asking me, "Hey, they have a green one.
Mm-hmm.
Can you make the green one?" I'm like, "Look, I know the recipe comes from Toluca. If I can get someone that actually makes it to teach me, I'm not going to try to fabricate it." So until I found someone from over there that has a family that dedicates to doing it to give me the recipe, that was when I did it. So
Yeah.
I say it's inspired because I can't say it's authentic, but I want it to be as authentic as possible.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
So
Mhm.
I didn't want to butcher their recipe or their chorizo
Yeah.
so much. So I was like, let me get as close as possible. And I'd be like, I learned off YouTube, so let me get the recipe from somebody.
You didn't get the Rachel Ray recipe for
Right,
pozole, right? You
for
didn't
her
want to be that.
pozole.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, but that's yeah. I know, but that's good though. Like you went to a source and you're like, you know what? Let's see, if we can do that. So those are some of the best sellers and the original, mild, and the green.
And in the future, I plan to have a whole product line, and that's part of the growth I plan to have, and
Good, good, good,
with having it in different stores and farmer markets and more e-commerce.
good, good.
Yeah.
And
So
are you look? Is this pork, right? It's
for
all
now,
pork.
it's pork.
Okay, okay. No, 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 no soy
So
chorizo,
soy rizo.
soy. And you're like, nah, we're not,
No, no, no. At the moment, no.
not. Yeah, no, no, I
Actually, I
got
don't
you.
think ever.
Yeah.
But beef, yeah, I want to expand into beef.
Okay.
Do maybe some ground brisket. Try give that a try. There's some
Oh, okay.
people that a lot of people have mentioned to me that medically they can't consume pork.
Oh, yeah. Some people do.
That's a thing. It's a bigger than what I ever thought it was. So I might make that.
That's a good point. Medically and even religion wise, there's people that don't
Oh,
eat, for
yeah,
because of religious
as
reasons,
well.
so they may not consume it as well. But yeah, yeah, those are yeah. Sometimes you just gotta see what what the demand is, and see if that's something that works for you. If it works for you and you can cater to it, well, great. That's a good thing.
How do you feel? Question now. I
Yeah,
have a
yeah.
question. Sorry. How do you feel about watching all the um, all the gurus on social media? What's your advice on that? On the entrepreneur gurus on social media?
You know what I mean? It's as far as advice on entrepreneurship, I always have just my ear open. You take, you take what works for you, but and then whatever, like, and what doesn't, but but it's free. It's free advice, free
That's true.
information. It may, like even this interview today may inspire somebody. They may learn something new. They may learn like, hey, I'm not alone when with the stress or with this, these things. But yeah, I mean, I listen. I mean, I watch. Who is it? I've been seeing a lot of Mr. Temple.
Yeah,
His post, and I'm like, hey, some of that stuff is good. Now, even when I'm working in the shop, I'm like, clean as you go, clean as you go. I'm packing, I'm moving things, and I'm cleaning up. Because he brought that up in one of his posts. He's like, hey, you're in the kitchen, the kitchen don't got to be all messy, all, and then at night you got to be cleaned up. He goes, if you dirty it, clean it up, pick up the trash, don't just throw it on the floor. So you learn, you do learn, there's some things, sometimes I'll watch videos of hand wrapping and maybe I just need to see 5 seconds, 6 seconds. And I'm like, okay, I don't need to see the rest. You're not going to learn anything. I'm not going to learn anything from what they're doing, or maybe they're doing something that I know is not correct. So it's free information. Take what works for you, make it your own. That's how I feel about it. But there's people that do share a lot of good stuff. Like I said, Mr.
right.
Temple. I'm not in the food industry, but I think in general, some of the tips that you can learn from them, they help business in general. Like we probably have things that in common as far as like, okay, the tariffs are affecting, maybe you're not importing tape from China, but maybe you're importing packaging, maybe you're importing, you know, boxes, something like that. So it affects us, in different ways. It's a big, maybe for some one business they can switch right away and get a replacement from another country. But there's other ones where it's like, damn, there's no replacement right now. Like this is going to take months, maybe years to establish a relationship with another country, or or to have another country start building their factory so they can produce tape, gauze in my business. So yeah, but you do learn. I think that it's something that I like to learn. I mean, I think most entrepreneurs like to learn, and sometimes we get inspired, by other people. Is there
Right.
anybody that in particular like you may follow, or
I used to watch. I used to follow all of them,
yeah,
but it got to the point where it was. I started to compare myself
yeah,
to them. So it was just like, you know what, kind of take a step back, just take the good, but don't be like, how come I don't have a Ferrari? How come I don't have a mansion?
right,
Um, you know,
yeah,
there's that one guy that's at 2:30 in the morning dunking his face in mineral water and then
yeah,
going
yeah. I
for a
think I've seen
jog,
that.
right? There's that. So then you start saying, maybe if I did all that, then I would have more success. I'd be
Yeah,
more disciplined. So just take the good and
yeah. I mean, we can always. I guess we know, like, yeah. I mean, we got to remember to also social media at times is half truths. Maybe a lot of it is a lot of show.
maybe listen have.
Yeah, yeah, and one thing I pride myself in, like in my, as an entrepreneur, is that my business produces enough where it generates money on its, it's generating money where I don't have to keep putting money into it out of my other job. Every month we're not negative. We're making money to reinvest in the business. So I think if you're doing that and you're not in debt like crazy, then you're in a good place, man. Because getting in debt's easy. Go and get credit cards or go and get machines. But I think it takes time to get to that point. Because in the beginning, since you don't know, you may want to buy this machine, you may want to get that machine, and then at the end, you're like, man, it was just this simple machine that gets the job done, and it's the right one. So yeah, that sometimes I think that's one of the things we learn, maybe the hard way. But I think if you're doing good, maybe we don't have a Ferrari, maybe we do. I don't know, but
I have three
yeah,
outside.
right. But let's say you did a commercial, Chemos Chorizo, and then you're driving a Ferrari. Then it's like, okay, so what are you saying, with that, like, or I don't know. Like sometimes I see like boxers, and they're always posting that they're next to luxurious cars, and they're just starting, right? And I'm like, well, what are you fighting for? If you
Right.
already got it all, so what's your drive? What is your drive? I think when you're an entrepreneur, or you're really believing in your business, you carry that passion and you carry that brand, and like you mentioned in the beginning, was that's what sells the product. It's not just the product, it's the story behind it. you know
Right.
it's what differentiates you from, you know if I saw your brand at the store, and I'm like, hey, I know the guy that makes this product, I'm more inclined to buy from you, because I'm like, I know this person, I know their story. I don't know
Right.
who I don't know who Reynaldo is, or who this other dude is. I don't know them, but I know this brand. So that's one thing that I think differentiates entrepreneurs that are really into, that they're really passionate about what they're doing. You know.
Um, one thing that I try to tell younger people, like, do not compare yourself to anything you
No.
see on social media.
Yeah.
You have to be committed. You have to know what you want. You have to
Hmm.
work for it. But don't go change the title of your Instagram
Yeah.
bio to hustler or entrepreneur because you printed out one t-shirt with your buddy in the garage. I'm like, do not do that. I'm like, it's a lot more than that. Do not start posting pictures at a at a garage, at a parking garage with some guy's BMW. It's it's a lot of work. It's a lot of sacrifice. It's it's not that much flash. It's
It's not.
you will get there. You will get there with time and work.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the stats, how many businesses failed their first year
Oh yeah.
and third year and even to their fifth year. So even you might think that you're good and you're still at a
Mm-hmm.
chance of
Right.
a failure in your fifth year. And so there's a lot that goes into it.
That's a good point. And how I mean, how do you feel like when you see people maybe copy or they're kind of you're like, damn, like I know they saw that from something I did. Do you just like say, you know what, keep pressing forward, let's go?
You know, I've encountered that, and I think to myself, el sol sale para todos.
Yeah.
But just do it your own way, your own style. And I just keep on I don't stay focused on them. I just keep on pushing. But one thing I do think about, and this is going back to how people's perception. I was like, if they're copying me, they're perceiving that I'm probably selling like truckloads, just like 18 wheelers of my product going into a Costco and everything. I
Yeah,
drive
yeah.
a product. They're like, hey, this guy has a business that we have to, we have to copy because it must be doing that. We have to do what he's doing because it's doing so well.
It's doing good. No,
I'm like,
I
it's
get I totally can relate to that. Like I know we have our wristband, our Cutman wristband, and then you see other people just start, imitating, you know, and you're like, man, it's not that easy. Like, what are you gonna sell? Like, you can't, it's not. Or you'll see them selling it for $20. Like mine sells for $100, and then they'll go out and make one, and they're like, oh, this one's gonna be 20, or a big company will take your idea. I've had that where a big company comes and they'll just be like, oh, I like that. I'm gonna start making it. What can you do? I mean, you can trademark something, but then somebody can tweak it a little bit, and then it's something else, right?
yeah,
So
trademarking is tricky.
yeah, so it's hard. You just gotta keep, don't let it. You gotta have thick skin in business, I guess. You just gotta keep pressing, and who's the original, and and what's. y- Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's just hard to face those things.
For me, it's really motivating because the one thing I don't want to do is to get left behind
Mhm.
by a copycat.
Yeah, yeah,
And I hope that doesn't sound wrong,
yeah. No,
but it's like if some guy's copying me and he passed me up,
no.
then that means he saw what I was doing and he passed me up. So I must have dropped the ball because I was already doing it.
You stop being a, creativo, or, being creative. Maybe, and it happens. Sometimes we get
I could have lost
comfortable.
some of that drive,
Yeah, yeah,
and
you lose
he
that.
still had it.
Yep, yep. That's
So
it.
yeah, so I was like, if he sees me and he's like, I'm gonna run with it, I have to too,
Yeah.
because I can't let them pass me up because they have more drive than me. So I'll be competitive in that aspect.
Yeah, no, 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 and that's a good point. You got to keep that drive. I mean, you have to. You can't, just get comfortable and be like, oh, okay, because other people are, they may create something that you're doing, and they may be like, oh, I'm gonna make blue chorizo, I mean, or I'm gonna make this. I'm gonna call this wristband this, and I'm gonna change that on it, and then I'll sell it, for whatever. But what they don't, they you just got to stay on your toes, I guess, and just keep being innovative, and just keep in people's minds, be out there. Hey, I say, hey, Chemo, thanks for stopping by the store. How's everything going? Oh yeah, I like the way you guys set it up, have this display. I think all those things probably matter, no?
Yeah, absolutely. And as a business, no one's gonna, when you work for someone else, you have to be there at, let's say, 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
You have to you have to perform at such level. When you work for yourself, there's nobody there to push you.
Yeah.
There's nobody there to push you. So you have to, and it's really, it's and it could be so repetitive that you just kind of do it. It almost becomes a habit
Yeah.
that you start doing, like a routine that
Yeah.
you're into. And you have to snap yourself out of that. Be like, no, you have to keep pushing yourself. If not, you'll just get yourself into this routine. Like, I've noticed a lot of business owners. Like, I'm gonna use barbers, for
Yeah.
example, and barbers do well for themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I grew up with a bunch of guys that are doing well for themselves as barbers, or so they'll start cutting hair in their parents' garage, right? All their friends for $10 until they learn their
Yeah.
craft, and then they put themselves through school. I mean, these guys, they're hustlers. Then they'll rent a chair, and then they'll get their own place where they'll rent out chairs. So I mean, and they did this within like 5, 6 years. So
Yeah.
these guys were on it, but then they plateaued, and no one put a limit to their success. It was just here.
Yeah.
They just reached a level of comfort where they could just cruise. And if they're happy with that, that's fine. But if but what would they have thought of themselves 6 years prior? Would they have thought I would open up a second spot and a third spot?
Mhm.
I know a lot of people that did real well, but they put a limit on their success subconsciously, and
Yeah.
they just kind of plateaued. And that's just because that was their. I don't ever think that they ever thought about it, but subconsciously they just said, "I'm here." I'm
And I mean, I don't know, do you have do you have a mentor, somebody that you're like, hey, that, because I know you mentioned like sometimes, we lose that drive. Is there somebody that do you have a mentor, a friend that's like, hey man, you got it, oh no, or you bounce an idea off of, somebody that confianza that you're like,
I
okay.
don't know. I actually don't. I bug my wife.
Yeah, yeah.
I bug my wife. I'm like, hey, how about this? But that's pretty much as far as I go. As
No,
far as
and I
motivate,
ask
yeah.
because sometimes I know with me, with the Cutman store, I talk a lot to Stitch, to Jacob. I'll reach out to him and hey, what do you think? And then he might be like, nah, or he might be like, oh, that's a good idea, or even like, hey man, you're doing a great job, man. I see your products here and there. So some of those things, I think it does help to get like an honest opinion. Or I have my compadre, I'll be like, hey, compa, like, what do you think about this? Hey, why don't you do like kits, hand wrap kits, or why don't you do, like a combo pack? And then I'm like, oh man, I never really thought about that. But sometimes, people, like you said, sometimes we set our own little limitations, but there's other people that see beyond for us. They're dreaming, they're seeing you in Costco already. They're seeing you at Target. They're seeing you in every store, and sometimes I think we get so caught up in the business that by the time the day's over, you're drained. We're always working. What do they say? You're always working in the business, not on the business.
Mm.
Sometimes we gotta work, work on the business. Like, how am I gonna, what else can I do, to make it better? But a lot of times we're so caught up in the moment of being out there. I don't know if you have reps or if you're out there yourself trying to get new accounts. You're everywhere, and but some messages you just get tired. You're like drained. So it's sometimes it's hard if our brain isn't resting. Where's our creativity gonna come from? We're drained. Sometimes we need a little bit of rest so that we can get creative, we can see an improvement, work on our website, on our social media, So I don't know if that's something that,
I actually have a few friends um, that when I speak to them, they they're like they're my hype man.
Sí,
They're like, hey, I see you doing this. I see doing well. I see you're hustling. Hey, you inspire me to keep on working. You inspire me to push harder, and it really pumps me up.
oh
It
yeah.
really pumps me up, and that just really gives me more energy. Be like, wow, I'm like that's how they perceive me. Um,
Sometimes you don't know. Sometimes we don't like. Sometimes we forget all that we've accomplished. Sometimes you might need a reminder, like, damn, Chemo, you've accomplished a lot since 2018. Look where you're at now. Look where you were at in 2018, and look where you're at now. Sometimes we forget to live in the present, like where we're at now. We're always thinking, like, okay, mañana, next Friday, this and that. But what about
yeah,
right now? Right now, you're good. Take that W. You
yeah,
deserve it.
absolutely. No, you're right. Absolutely.
Yeah. Sometimes, yeah, we got to do those things, man. But I know we're almost at the 1 hour mark. But any any tips you any like if you could give 3 tips to a young entrepreneur or somebody whatever business they want to get into, anything you would that maybe we've learned the hard way or that have worked for you, any tips you would give a youngster, young man, young lady out there?
Be persistent. Be persistent. Um, do not listen to other people. Do not listen to other people, and hold yourself accountable.
Yeah,
I would say those are the 3 things.
yeah, yeah. No, no, no. That's that's a good point. That I think that accountability for many reasons. I think for me, that's one that really sticks because there's a lot of people that are not accountable, and sometimes people will think that nobody is, like that person's gonna flake or they're not gonna do this, they're not gonna do what they said. So when we're accountable, I think it shows our um it shows our seriousness in what we do.
And
So
be dedicated. Do not be discouraged at the first door, that closes. When I started, I couldn't give chorizo away. People wouldn't even want to accept it for free to give it to their dog.
yeah,
That's how it was. I could have easily just been like, okay, I'm dead. That's it. I throw in the towel. I'm good, and I just kept up being persistent.
well, do you remember your first account that you're like, damn, like hell yeah, I got one? You remember like the first store, the first account?
my first, my first account, no, but I do remember someone that shared the product on social media, and she had about maybe like 300 followers,
Hmm?
and I wasn't that good at social media back then.
Yeah.
Um, and I was like, oh my God, an influencer,
Sí,
but
sí,
they actually posted me, and I was just over the moon with that.
sí.
And I was like, they posted me. I'm like, that's it. I'm in the big times. I'm in the big
Good.
leagues now. But yeah, and yeah, I would say that was that one time. I remember buying one cooler and a bigger cooler and a bigger cooler, and I was like, and now I filled them all up, and I was like, when I started, I couldn't fill a personal cooler.
You
I couldn't give it away, but I was persistent.
didn't give up. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's good. And I think I saw a post recently. It's like, man, when somebody buys something from you, it's because they believe, they believe in you, they believe in your product, and that's good. It's a good feeling. It's part of, like you mentioned earlier, it's part of you. It's part of your, a family tradition, of creating this product. So for somebody to find value in it, that's pretty cool. Like people are buying it because it's like they want that. So that's good.
Yeah, it means a lot.
It means a lot. I think people don't realize for a business owner how much that means. And I think that's a good thing is we got to stay connected. We got to stay connected to the people. We can't, like we gotta stay connected to our business, and no matter how much we grow, we can't, because that connection to our customers and to the people that have followed us. I think that's what makes you different too. once you lose that, you may lose, the people that have been, supporting you.
I know the time's almost up, but you know how we spoke earlier
Hmm.
about during the COVID time
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and the tariffs which are going on right now, the price are being really unstable. I could easily just, say it's my product. I could say, hey, I'm gonna hike it up $1.
Yeah.
But in that process of hiking it up $1, I'm gonna lose like 50% of my customers. And these are customers that have been with me since the beginning. I rather tough it out
Maybe.
and just suck it up and be loyal to those customers that have been with me all these years. Because I
And
mean, these are just waves that we'll have to ride as
oh
business
yeah.
owners.
And there's gonna be people that are gonna be like, oh, it's the tariffs. It's not even affecting them, but they're gonna be like, yeah, it's a good time to raise prices. I mean,
I encounter that everywhere.
you know, it's happening. But I think when you have integrity and you know that that's not the right thing because it's not really affecting you, and you're making money, you're doing good. Like why do that? And to some people, $1 might be, they might not have that extra, buck or two. They might be like, you know what, that's already out of our budget. I'm sorry. It's you kind of, yeah, it
That's me
happens.
showing my gratitude and loyalty to my customers that have been with me
Yeah,
all
yeah.
this
No,
time.
and I'm sure that they appreciate it because they're seeing it everywhere where the prices you go and everything's up. But for you to be consistent and be like, you know what, we're gonna hang in there. We're gonna see what happens. We're gonna write it out, and we'll see where this goes. But I think that's a good gesture on your part. Anything else? I mean, anybody you want to shout out, think, anything? Yeah, this is your platform. Let me know anybody you want to shout out or any. It's all good.
Yes, just one person. Romeo Johnson. Chemos Chorizo is sponsoring Romeo Johnson out of Tacoma, Washington. Young
Okay.
young kid. Um, trying to get him to the nationals.
Okay, so you USA Boxing. Is it
Yes.
USA Boxing? Okay. Okay. Good. 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 And I know we didn't really touch up on that. I know that Jose, he's had you on some of his shirts and all that. I think that it's probably more of him. And I don't know what if you were a sponsor or if it was him just showing love to the company. But is that something like right now with this kid out in Washington? Is just something like, hey, I'm gonna help this kid out. I see his work, or is that something that you're tapping into, or is that if you can, you're there to help out if possible.
He helps my good friend's son train.
Okay,
So then I get to sponsor him. So it's all full
it
circle.
works out. It works out. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I never got to be a boxer. I didn't get that opportunity to train, but I love the sport.
You're in there.
and
You're in the
and,
mix.
and that's me just being this much part of part of it involved. Just to see my logo on the shorts in the
All
ring
right.
just makes me involved, feel involved.
No, and that's good. That's good. And I see, like, when you're talking about this kid up in Washington, I see, like, you're doing it to help this youngster out, and that's a good thing. It shows class on your part, and like, not only is, I mean, you're involved, but you're also putting your resources into somebody that is going to have a big impact on. So that's good.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. Well, yeah, that's I want to say thank you, for being on. I think we could probably talk for hours. I mean, just this, business. I think sometimes people don't understand everything that we go through, even our wife, or or family. They don't understand all the struggles, like, hey,
Right.
what, but I think sometimes, just tapping in with other entrepreneurs, other business owners, even though we're not in the same field, we get to kind of share some ideas and maybe inspire each other, maybe motivate each other to keep going. So thank you for taking the time today, and just talking. And I want to say shout out to Mega, to Jose, for making this happen too,
Yeah.
for making this happen, and just him and Brooke, and just it's good to have good friends that that keep keep supporting and keep pushing us to higher, higher limits. So,
Absolutely.
so thank you. And if that's it, man, God bless you. And I'll be following you, and we'll be in touch on social media. I'll go ahead and send you my phone. If you ever want to talk, or if you want to chop it up, we're here for you.
Thank you, Juan.
All right. Thank you.
Cuídate. Thank you.
Gracias. Bye bye.